All right. So we are live on YouTube with T. Krulos. Woo!
Hey. Hi, Liz.
Hey. So it's as if T. Krulos is at Quimby's Bookstore in Chicago, but also simultaneously from his office in his house in Milwaukee. So
Yes.
we're very excited to have him here. Before we launch into this event, I'm just gonna do a little bit of housekeeping. My name is Liz. I work at Quimby's Bookstore. We're really excited to have all of you here tonight with us. Just a few housekeeping things before we jump into the event. A few events that we have coming up are, I'm going to tab over to my Zoom link here. All right. So a week from tonight, on the 27th of October, Zine Club Chicago online, the Fear edition. So that's going to be on Zoom, and it's our Zine Club meetup for people who make zines, appreciate zines, or who want to get into zines. And we hope that you will join us. If you would like to join us, just make sure that you respond via email, RSVP, to zineclubchicago@gmail.com. Just make sure that you respond by 5:30 p.m. on that day. You'll get a link at 6:30 and the event is at 7:30. And then in November, on Friday the 13th, Jim Terry reads from Come Home Indio, interviewed by Anne Elliott of Sideshow Gallery, a really cool store over on Western here in Chicago. And that's Friday, November the 13th at 7:30 p.m. Central. And that book is for sale as well here. And now, and also, so before I introduce T, the way this is gonna work is I'm gonna introduce him, he's gonna talk about his book, we're gonna do a Q&A, and then he's gonna do some trivia, and you might be able to win some cool prizes. Be thinking now and post in the YouTube scrolling comments if you have any questions that you wanna ask. We'll try to get to as many as we can. And we've got operators standing by to take some notes on that. And now I'm just gonna really quickly just talk about T's book, American Madness, the story of the Phantom Patriot and how conspiracy theories hijacked American consciousness. Woo! So the mainstream news media struggles to understand the power of social media, while conspiracy advocates, malicious political movements, and even foreign governments have long understood how to harness the power of fear and the fear of power into lucrative outlets for outrage and money. But what happens when the harbingers of inside knowledge go too far? In American Madness, published by Feral House, author T. Krulos tells the story of one man, Richard McCaslin, whose fractured thinking made him the ideal consumer of even the most arcane of conspiracy theories. Krulos investigates and explains the power of conspiracy and the resulting shared madness on the American psyche. T. Krulos is a Milwaukee-based writer who documents the underground world of fringe subcultures. His previous books, Apocalypse Any Day Now, Deep Underground with America's Doomsday Preppers, and Heroes in the Night, Inside the Real-Life Superhero Movement, explored the driving beliefs and lives of the people who chose to reject accepted reality and substitute their own. Let us welcome T. Krulos. Woo!
Thank you. Thanks, everyone who's out there. It's great to be here at Quimby's. I wish I was there in person, of course, but this is the next best thing. So this book started for me back in 2010, actually. I was working on my first book, Heroes in the Night, which came out in 2013. I actually did an appearance at Quimby's when that book came out, and it was about people who adopt their own superhero persona. And some of them actually try to go out and fight crime and stuff like that. So I was working on a blog to kind of detail my progress on this book. And I get an email from a guy, and he says, "My name is Richard McCaslin, and I think you might be interested in talking to me, because back in 2002, I had my own superhero persona, the Phantom Patriot, and I raided this place called the Bohemian Grove, and I set it on fire." And I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? So I started researching the Bohemian Grove, which is this retreat in the Redwood Forest. And it's owned by the Bohemian Club, which is made up of some of the world's most powerful men. And there's this conspiracy about it because they do this strange ritual in front of a statue of an owl inside of the Bohemian Grove. So I became interested in that, and I slowly began interviewing Richard for about 8 years. And I got to find out his very unusual life story, which takes a lot of twists and turns. I ended up meeting him several times in person and going on some strange adventures with him. But I was also learning about conspiracy culture and trying to tie the story into the bigger picture. And of course, I'm sure everyone knows that in the last couple of years, and in this year in particular, that's something that's really exploded to be an out of control thing. There's just been so much going on over the last couple months, conspiracies about the pandemic, conspiracies about civil unrest and Antifa being everywhere. Even in the last couple of weeks, there was a story about this militia group from Michigan who were plotting to kidnap the governor of Michigan, Governor Whitmer. And looking at their social media, we see that they shared a lot of conspiracy stuff about the pandemic and, about anti-vaxxer type stuff. And they shared links to InfoWars, which is run by Alex Jones. And that kind of ties the whole story in a circle because Richard McCaslin, aka the Phantom Patriot, was very heavily influenced by Alex Jones. And that was one of the reasons that he raided this place, the Bohemian Grove. So it's really the story of him and the story of how this culture evolved over the last few decades to where we are now, which is a huge mess. So, I don't know, do you have any questions, Liz?
Oh, sorry, I had to unmute myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if there was a delay.
Oh, yeah. Well, there is a delay in the sense that I had to get out of the full screen to unmute myself.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, tell me about what it was that with this book, like you kind of took a deep dive in this, and you do deep dives on things.
Yeah.
Was there sort of like a sociological drive to understand what was going on?
Yeah, I mean, when I talk about this book, or when I was talking about this book when I started on it, people were very dismissive. I think they're like, "Oh, this guy sounds like just a crackpot. Like I don't understand." And I knew that there must be some story there, though. I was like, "How did this guy get into the Bohemian Grove wearing this superhero costume?" And I don't mean how he got in, like how he actually entered the Grove. I was like, what was the journey his life went through to get to this place where he's having an armed standoff with police inside of this retreat in the forest? So I was just very curious about his life story and the story of the Bohemian Grove because there's a lot of strange details about that place as well. So that's what I was originally, interested in exploring. But then, like I said, I think a moment that really struck me was in 2016, there was this guy named Edgar Madison Welch who went to InfoWars and saw a video about this thing called Pizzagate. And he did a very similar raid to Richard, where he had weapons and he drove from South Carolina to Washington, D.C., and he had this raid on this place in Washington, D.C. that he thought was part of Pizzagate, which says that there is this sort of Democrat satanic pedophile ring. And Pizzagate really was the early form of QAnon, which of course is in the news all the time now. There's people running for office who are QAnon believers. Trump's been doing the thing where he kind of says that he doesn't know who they are, but at the same time, he thinks that they're okay. So I think it was about 2016 and the Trump election where I started to see this bigger part of the story where, Richard might have seemed like an isolated crackpot, but now it's evolved where there's people who are getting elected into office who believe in conspiracy theories. And it's just a huge part of our culture and influencing all of our lives, really.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Pizzagate is like the one thing that everyone knows about. Like that's like the stereotype of like when people talk about conspiracy theories now, that's the thing that people jump to.
Yeah.
Pizzagate. Yeah, QAnon, definitely. Yep. Is there a particular passage that you're excited about in here that you want to read? Not to put you on the spot, but I'm totally putting you on the spot. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a couple of ones. I'm trying to think of which one would be best. Maybe I'll just read from the beginning about how I first got this email. So in the introduction, I said, I'm describing real life superheroes. And then I say, on October 2nd, I woke up and followed my morning ritual. I started brewing a pot of coffee and flipped open my laptop to see if any emails had drifted in overnight. I did have a new message. It read, Mr. Krulos, my name is Richard McCaslin, and I used to be known as the Phantom Patriots. I was the RLSH, that's real life superhero, that set a fire in the Bohemian Grove on January 20th, 2002. You can read the official version of the story on Wikipedia. If you're interested in the whole story, please contact me. I can provide proof of my identity. I just found out about Heroes in the Night and would like to participate, even though the mainstream real-life superhero community is keeping its distance from me. Sincerely, Richard McCaslin. So that's where the whole story started for me, and it just went on for almost the next 10 years of trying to figure out who this guy was and what all this conspiracy stuff was. I thought that I was, I was like, oh, I know about conspiracy theory. I know about JFK and Roswell and stuff like that. But I discovered that I was really an amateur in my conspiracy theory knowledge. So I learned quite a bit about these theories and who promotes them and where they come from and stuff like that.
Do you get the sense, so I feel like when I was growing up, there was conspiracy theory was sort of had a different angle on it than conspiracy theory does now. So like, I feel like, when I was younger, conspiracy theory did mean Kennedy, UFOs, Roswell, like it's slightly more in some ways more innocuous.
Yes.
Whereas now conspiracy theory has like a different tint to it. It feels more sinister. It has a more political bent. It definitely is associated with the more right wing of the political continuum. Did you get that sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I used to like learning about conspiracy theory stuff. I thought the JFK assassination stuff was very interesting, even if I didn't particularly, agree with any theory. I was interested in it. And, the UFO stuff I've loved since I was a teen. So it was kind of fun to me, like, oh, this is kind of kooky and fun and stuff like that. Of course, I loved like the Weekly World News talking about Elvis being spotted alive somewhere. So yeah, like you say, I think it used to be more fun and more interesting. There was writers like Jim Mars, who I thought was an interesting guy. He seemed kind of like an eccentric college professor or something like that, as opposed to someone like Alex Jones, who just kind of yells and screams about gay frogs and demons and stuff like that. So I think the turning point for me, the first slight turning point was 9/11, I think. I was kind of like, this is kind of, it's making me feel weird, like some of this stuff. I just thought, I don't think that people should refrain from questioning the government or anything like that. Of course, our government does crazy, screwed up stuff all the time. But also, there was real people that died in 9/11, and people were saying that these people were fake, or that, they were just made up and stuff like that. So, but I was like, okay, whatever. But the real hard turning point for me, I think, was the Sandy Hook conspiracy theories. So I talk about that in a chapter of my book. And what happened was a lot of people, especially Alex Jones and people that follow him, came up with this theory that the children of Sandy Hook had never existed, and that the grieving parents that you would see on TV were actually crisis actors, which were people pretending that they were parents of these children. And I mean, that's sort of just disgusting, to have this theory. But the really bad part was a lot of these people that believed it and were hearing about it would harass these families. Like, they would be walking down the street, and then someone would come up to them and ask them why they had pretended that they had a daughter that had died or something like that. So I was like, you know what? This conspiracy stuff can be just really awful and really inhumane, I guess is the word I would use for it. So, and I'm not saying that all conspiracy theorists are like that, or that's what it is entirely now, but it's definitely something that I think people should be aware of. And, eventually Alex Jones ended up getting sued over and over again by some of these parents, as he should have. He was completely engaging in libel slander. So there is a real dark side, and that unfortunately is the direction it's gone, I think. When you see these stories about QAnon harassing people, planning violent things, like I mentioned, that plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan, a couple of those guys in the militia we know were posting QAnon stuff. So it's really influencing bad people. So
Yeah, that is dark stuff. Like, to be a parent of a child that was killed and then be assumed that you're lying. And then I know that they would get threats too.
yes, yeah.
That's,
There's one couple that they had to move like 7 times because they kept moving, and like these internet troll detectives would find out where they were living, and then they would start harassing them,
yeah.
in person and by the internet. And it's just,
Yeah.
really dark. Yeah, it can be really dark stuff. And just frightening that, a lot of some of these people are homeschooling their kids and teaching them that this stuff is right. So I'm really curious to see what this conspiracy theory generation is,
Yeah. Well, and the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, I feel like just absolutely lends itself to conspiracy theory stuff. And
yeah, and it's very dangerous because, of course, if you believe that a pandemic is fake or whatever, then you're probably not likely to care about social distancing or wearing a mask or stuff like that. So, I mean, it can have very dangerous consequences.
yeah, definitely. Do you want to talk about some of the comics? I mean, I know this is not totally in the book, but like,
yeah, no, it is. I talk about it in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit about this before we went live. So, Richard.
Yeah. Actually, before you jump in, I'm just going to check in with my partner in crime to see if anything's going on. And
no questions yet.
All right, no questions yet, but cool.
Okay,
but we know we have people watching. So, all right.
Oh, good.
So anyway, so the comic.
Yes, Richard, at a very young age, became fascinated with comic book superheroes, and it really was an escapism for him. There was no cable, there wasn't the internet, His parents fought a lot. His dad was abusive to him. So I think that he really had this escapism where he really got into superhero comic books. And it really kind of shaped the direction of his life because he wanted to be a superhero. And he started drawing his own characters. And eventually he started making his own costumes. And even after he graduated from high school, he joined the Marines. And he said that was because he kind of viewed it as a superhero training. And he went to stuntman school, and that was for the same reason. So he was always an illustrator, but then after his raid of the Bohemian Grove, he had some time on his hands because he ended up going to prison for 6.5 years. And then he was on parole for a couple of years. So one of the things he did while he was in prison was he drew this kind of epic comic book. And there's 3 storylines in it. The first one is an autobiographical comic book about his raid into the Bohemian Grove. And that's the one that you get when you order from Quimby's. We've reproduced that comic with some of his art on the cover too. And then the other storylines in that original comic he had converted to be a Jehovah's Witness while he was in jail or prison. And he drew this really wild, like kind of a revenge fantasy fictional comic where he becomes this new superhero that's like a Jehovah's Witness warrior. And him and this angel go into the Bohemian Grove and they destroy it. And they like overthrow the government and all this wild stuff. So that one was fiction. I should mention his autobiographical comic. One thing about it is it's accurate. I kind of built the story from reading Richard's own stuff, but then I also did a Freedom of Information Act where I got a Secret Service file on him. And I also found police reports and stuff like that. So I kind of put this all together, and Richard's comic isn't wrong. It's seen through his own lens, but factually, like the stuff that happened I was able to determine that it was all correct. So he drew that while he was in prison. And then after he got out, he would occasionally draw a zine, really. He'd draw his own little comic zines, and most of them were fictional adventures of him like fighting against the New World Order. And sometimes, people he had met in real life were part of the storyline too. Like he mentions me in one of his comic book storylines, which I was like,
wow.
What did he say? Well, when I wrote Heroes in the Night, I'd written a very short blurb about him in that book because I knew I was working on a bigger project, but I still wanted to mention him in a chapter that talks about the history of the real life superheroes. So this character says, "Hey, I read about you in T's book." I was like, wow, that's me. I'm in Richard's comic.
That's a dubious honor, I gotta say.
So, and actually,
weird.
And actually, it's this comic here that we're going to be giving out as one of the prizes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Wow. Wait, so I didn't realize he had done that many comics, or that. I didn't realize his output was so prolific, I guess.
Yeah, he did. I'm trying to think. Maybe about 4 or 5 different comics. And he also, the other thing he did, he eventually moved out to Pahrump, Nevada, which is a weird little desert town. And
that sounds like the name of that town sounds like you're making up that name of that
Pahrump?
town. But I know you wrote about it in the book. But
yes,
yeah.
Yes, there's a chapter called "Where the Heck is Pahrump?" And while he's out there, he found a local video production company, and he made probably about 5 superhero adventures starring himself in his costume. And he's kind of fighting bad guys out there in the desert. And he paid these guys to cut together these sort of like amateur superhero action movies. So he was very creative. He had this very creative side where, and he loved superhero stories. So he struggled to find an audience, I think, because he just didn't really do social media at all. And I don't think that he understood like what it takes to get something like that in front of eyes. And that was frustrating, but he tried.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I am just really quickly going to give a shout out to everybody who's watching on YouTube. I want to see if our scrolling text works. I want to make sure this is going out into the world. Will somebody just post, even if it's just, mumbo jumbo in the scrolling text? I want to make sure that this is going out. Got the heads up from Joe. Is it hilarious nonsense that they just posted?
No, it's a question.
It's a question.
All right.
Do you want to continue talking about the book, or should we jump into the questions?
Oh, we can jump into the questions, I think.
Yeah, let's jump into the questions. All right.
Yeah.
Joe, you want to?
Sure. Paul Killen asks, did you ever meet him in person?
Yes. So Richard, I met him 3 times in person. So I first talked to him in 2010, and then his parole was up in 2011. And the first thing he does, the day after his parole is done, is he embarks on a 48-state tour, peacefully protesting with signs that say like, no to the New World Order and stuff. So he did this sort of road trip where he went to every state, and he came here to Milwaukee, and I got to meet him, and I joined him as he did his protest march around downtown. And
so would he actually have a particular venue scheduled, or it was a protest around town where he'd say like, I'm going to be protesting in town at this date?
I don't even think that he had the dates lined up. He just kind of was like, I'm starting in San Francisco, and then, I'm heading southeast. And he had specific places that he protested a lot of times, as far as either a famous monument like the Golden Gate Bridge, or something that had a conspiracy tie, like he would protest in front of a Freemason temple and stuff like that. So he had sort of ideas, but not like a really solid itinerary. So I just got an email that said, hey, I'm going to be in Milwaukee in like 3 days, probably. So we met up and we walked around downtown Milwaukee. And the next day we did a protest. He did the protest. I went with him at O'Hare Airport. He was protesting TSA specifically.
What year was this?
This was 2011.
Wow, that's pretty risky, I gotta say.
It was a little bit nerve-wracking because we walked in and he's in a costume and he has a protest sign, and I'm just kind of standing back watching him. And then all of a sudden I noticed that like in every corner of the room, there's somebody talking on a walkie-talkie. I'm like, oh dude, they're gonna like just jump on him and arrest him. So I was just kind of like cringing, like they're gonna get this guy, but he kind of, did a protest thing and gave a little bit of a speech, and then we left and we weren't stopped at all.
Were you nervous that you were going to get implicated if he got busted in some way?
Yeah, I was like, I'm sure they'll arrest me too,
Yeah.
That's not the first time I've been afraid of being arrested with my subject matters, though. So I was like, well, that'll be an interesting thing to write about. I'll be able to write about my night in jail if that happens.
Yeah, all the topics that you write about, doomsday preppers, real life superheroes, this kind of thing. Like, I'm actually kind of shocked that you haven't been arrested.
No, not yet. I almost did. When I was working on Heroes in the Night, I was in Seattle with a real life superhero named Phoenix Jones. who's kind of famous, and he had pepper sprayed a bunch of people that were fighting, and they all started to attack us. And then the police showed up, and this cop gets out of the car and he's like, Phoenix Jones, I'm tired of playing this game with you. He's like, come here. And then there was me and there's a camera guy that was like shooting footage. He's like, you two guys, come over here too. So we're standing there and he read all of us our Miranda rights. And I was like, okay, well, I'm getting arrested. But then like we told the officer why we were there. And he sort of begrudgingly was like, all right, well, you are free to go. But they arrested the superhero, Phoenix Jones, that night.
Wow. That is a great quote. Phoenix Jones. Wait, what was it? What did the cop say? Phoenix Jones.
I'm tired of playing these games with you.
Phoenix Jones, I'm tired of playing. I mean, like, I feel like that's like something I would say to my cats when they're, cat, Phoenix Jones.
So that happened in 2011, by the way. And then in 2012, Richard emailed me and he said, hey, this is the 10-year anniversary of my raid of the Bohemian Grove. And I want you to come out to San Francisco because I'm going to do a protest as a Phantom Patriot in front of the Bohemian Club. So the club is in downtown San Francisco and they own the Grove, which is in Northern California outside of Monte Rio. And I was like, okay. Sure. I was working on the story and I thought it would be interesting to go out there. So he gave a speech in front of the club. And again, in the background in the club, in the windows, I could see like people talking on walkie-talkies. I'm like, might get arrested again. But we didn't. He gave his speech and, we hung out a little bit and that was that. And then I met him one last time. I went out to his house in Pahrump in 2015. And he was shooting one of his superhero action videos and I was in the video and hung out with him and got in some last interview questions with him then. So yeah, I ended up meeting him.
Is he, dumb question, he's still alive?
No, this is something I didn't talk a lot about until the book came out, but he died in 2018.
Yeah.
And again, I'll let people read that for themselves, but it's conspiracy related. Like, the conspiracy got a little bit too much for him.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you sort of lament that he's not around to read the book, or do you think the book wouldn't have? Well, that's a weird question to ask, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you if he was still with us, do you think you would have written the book?
I think so, because before I found out that he had died, no one knew that he had died for about 5 months because he didn't, the police determined his next of kin was like a second cousin that he never talked to. So no one really knew. So anyway, I had gotten very re-energized about working on this book. I was like, now's the time. This is this crazy conspiracy time and I got to finish this book. And, I thought Richard, if he read this book, would have been a little bit pissed off about a couple things. And I probably would have gotten an angry email. But ultimately, I think he would have been really glad that all he really wanted was for someone to listen to his story and to tell it. So I think he would have been very happy to know that, I'm talking to Quimby's tonight and the audience and people on different weird podcasts are talking about him. And
do you think had he heard of Quimby's before? Do you think?
I think no, I don't think he did, but I think just knowing that a bookstore was, talking about it.
Yeah. Somehow you have sort of given him in some ways what he wanted. I mean, in some ways he was kind of a performance artist, and was sort of seeking some kind of recognition for something, and in some ways you have given that to him.
Yeah. I mean, he tried to get people interested in his story for a long time, but he wasn't really good at approaching people with like, a clear way to introduce himself in his story. So I think a lot of people are like, okay, crank file. And I'm one of the few people who are like, there's gotta be a story behind this though, so.
It's really interesting because in some ways there's a thread through this that I recognize with the independent publishing world. And that is the artist temperament, wonderful at creating and executing work that is exuberant and interesting and all these things, but sometimes the sort of passionate, creative artist doesn't quite have a handle on the other side of the brain that's necessary for getting their work out into the world. You can call that, it's a gross word for it. You can call it marketing. You can call it the business angle, and I'm only familiar with this because I work in a store where it is my job to help them get their work out into the world. And so I have to exist on that side of the brain. And I almost kind of recognize that there's a little bit of that happening.
Yeah. Yes. So there's a really funny part of the book, I think, where it's just sort of a comedy. Me and Richard are in San Francisco. He's going to do his 10-year anniversary speech. And the day before, he wanted to drive around to the different media outlets in San Francisco to try to get them interested in this. And he brought me along because he thought I would be able to talk the talk to these media people. And he had written a press release. And this press release was just like, he assumed that like they knew a lot of things about conspiracy and about him personally, kind of. And I was like, just imagining like these people at the San Francisco Chronicle or something reading this press release and having no idea what the hell he was talking about. So we really failed like trying to get people interested. A couple places we went to were closed. There's a place we went to where we couldn't understand the receptionist through the door buzzer and she wouldn't let us in, We gave one to the San Francisco Weekly, and the guy like pretty much right in front of us just dropped it on like a do not read pile, you could tell. So he just had a lot of trouble like flagging people's interest because he just didn't have a thought out presentation. He had a thought out presentation, but he wasn't thinking like what the average person would think if they were trying to interpret this. So, yeah.
I enjoyed the montage sequence of the different places that you showed up to and what happened. Not to poke fun.
No, it was funny. It was a funny situation because, and I wasn't helpful in that situation either because I don't know. I didn't know what to say, but
yeah,
it just his story a lot, I think, is a struggle of life. He struggled with life, which all of us do, and it's just his was more animated because of the superhero angle and the conspiracy theory angle. But I felt sympathy for him because some of the stuff I was like, yeah, life really sucks sometimes.
Yeah. I'm just going to pause real quick. We've got some more questions for you.
Okay, good. Good, very good.
All right. Tim Demeter asks, is Danger your middle name?
I know, Tim. I think Danger is his middle name. No, I don't. It's funny. I don't like being in dangerous, awkward situations. I don't think I'm like, I don't know. I get very nerve-wracked by it. And there's been a couple times where I was like, why am I putting myself in this situation? But, I also love to get a good story. And sometimes you got to do some crazy stuff. You got to suffer for your art a little bit sometimes,
Yes. Agreed.
And if that means you get punched in the face or sometimes that happens.
Yeah. All right. Oh, someone has a comment for you, which is very cute, from Nicholas Regalia. Or Nicholas. I'm so sorry if I'm massacring anyone's names. I do apologize. Says, You are the coolest low-key person I've had the pleasure to work with. Keep up the good work.
Wait, who's
So, Nicholas Rogala? Rogala?
oh, okay, yeah,
Does that-
Nicholas, yeah. Oh, great, thank you. You know, I try to be a pretty mellow, low-key guy. It helps in situations like this, actually. For example, in this book, I went to a flat Earth conference just because I wanted to see what was going on firsthand. And I also went to a JFK assassination conference. And, you know, I'm
These
an
feel like
outsider
old
there.
school conspiracy theory to me. This feels like old
Yeah.
school conspiracy. Sorry, carry on. Sorry.
Yes,
Didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah. No, but I'm just saying, in situations like that, it's helpful to be kind of a low-key person, right? Because you just kind of want to try to look like you belong there. So people aren't like, wait, what's this guy? Is this guy from the CIA or something like that? You just want to be pretty chill and, you know, nod your head and be like, yeah, that's right, flat Earth. So you don't draw a suspicion to yourself.
So what is the most recent update from the Flat Earth Society? Is there any recent movement on that front, or?
You know, I wrote about them in the book, which was, I went to the conference November 2019. And after I wrote that up, I kind of forgot about them. But I am curious. I wonder what they're thinking about all this 2020 stuff, you know, because it's pretty epic stuff. So I'm wondering if they're somehow like tying flat Earth stuff into this. But
Yeah.
it was definitely one of the weirder experiences I had going to that conference, and I probably watched several talks. I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 different talks. And the craziest thing was the Flat Earth conference award. They had an award ceremony. So, you know, it was like person who had made the best YouTube video relating to flat Earth. And there's actually a very strong hip hop scene among flat earthers. So there was some live flat Earth hip hop performances that I got to see. And I have never seen anything like it, that's for sure.
Oh, you know, I am doing a deep dive after we get out of here. I'm right
I will
straight
send
to
you,
the.
Liz, I'll send you. I did a column last year where I rounded up some flat Earth hip hop videos. So I'll send you the link to that. They're
Better.
yes, I will. Very strong scene. Flat hop is what I call it.
What? That's a thing. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. Joe, do we have any more questions?
I've got one.
Joe has a question.
Yes.
I
Joe.
was just wondering if you could speak a little to, let's see, the Phantom Patriot was Richard.
Yes.
Okay. Could you talk about a little bit of his experience in prison? Like, what were the charges? Like, how long was he in there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Good. So Richard, after his failed raid of the Bohemian Grove, was charged with 5 felonies. There was an arson charge or 2. There was brandishing a weapon on a law enforcement agent, and he had like a bulletproof vest. And then also, this was kind of BS. They gave him a felony because he had a nightstick in his car, which was apparently a felony in California. So, and these charges, they haunted him the rest of his life. This is unfortunately part of our system, is that if you have a felony, it's harder to find a job, you know, and stuff like that. So he got charged with these 5 felonies. The judge tried to throw the book at him. He had sentenced him to 12 years in prison, you know, and that later was reduced. So he ended up spending 6.5 years in prison. The first 90 days, he was in the famous San Quentin jail in San Francisco, which of course I know because of the Johnny Cash song. And then he was transferred to Soledad State Prison, which is south of San Francisco. So he spent about 6.5 years there. One really interesting thing was I was sort of pen pals with his old cellmate. He had told me the name of his cellmate, and I tracked him down through the prison system, and me and him exchanged a few letters because I was like, hey, what was Richard like? What was it like sharing a very small cell with him? So we corresponded for a little while. He kind of found a job in that he would draw superhero characters for like other prisoners so they could use them as like birthday cards for their kids, or like
Richard did.
cards. Yeah. And he would draw these illustrations and trade them to the other prisoners for packets of peanut butter, or sriracha was kind of the currency. So he got by all right in prison, I think. He says that people pretty much just kind of left him alone. And then, so after 6.5 years, he was on parole. They had originally sent him up somewhere close to the Bohemian Grove. And then they're like, oh, wait, we don't want to send you there. We're sending you down to Redwood City. So he served his parole in Redwood City. And something really interesting is he gave me a copy of his parole instructions. And they're very unique because the instructions said you cannot be within like 10 miles of the Bohemian Grove. You can't be within 1/4 of a mile near the Bohemian Club in San Francisco. And you cannot own costumes, which I've never heard that as a parole stipulation before. They forbade him from owning a costume.
But he still dressed up in costumes after prison. So how did he get around?
After parole.
So once the parole ended, he could.
Yes, right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, while he was on parole, he could not wear costumes or be
So
anywhere
does
near
that mean after parole? Oh, so does that mean after parole he could then be within a 1/4 mile?
Yes.
Or other stipulations?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and he did.
So did he ever try to go
he
back?
did all those things. He didn't go back to the Grove, but he went back to the clubhouse and protested right in front of their door. And of course, he had costumes. So, I think he was a little bitter about those parole conditions, and he wanted to do them as soon as his parole was up.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any more questions or
Nothing on deck.
no? Okay, so I'll just give a shout out. We'll give like 30 more seconds for anybody to weigh in any questions, and then we will move on to the trivia. I know there's a lag, so that's why I'm saying we're going to wait a few seconds just to make sure.
Yeah, right.
But that's the thing with moving Zoom onto YouTube. There's always a lag. Well, okay. So I'm not seeing anything come in. Do you want to go ahead and get this trivia started? Do you want to talk about your prizes first, or?
Yeah, maybe because there's a lag, I'll start. I'll read the questions a couple times, and then while we're waiting for the answers to come in, I can kind of show some of the prizes in between the questions.
That's a great idea.
And then I'll tell the answers so we can see who got it correctly.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
We just got a question.
Oh, wait, we got one more question.
Okay.
Nicholas from
Oh, so your friend Nick asked,
Yeah.
how many superheroes are in Milwaukee?
how many superheroes are in Milwaukee? Do you know?
I don't think there are any now. I hate to say it, but for a while there was a whole team. They were called the Challengers, and there was the Watchmen, Blackbird, Night Vision. I'm forgetting a couple of their names, but then they just kind of drifted. The band kind of broke up and they drifted away. So I'm not aware of any active real life superheroes in Milwaukee. People always say that the Milverine we have a character here named the Milverine, but he's just a guy that looks like the Wolverine, and he walks around downtown with his shirt off. He's got a lot of chest hair. So, but he's not. He just happens to resemble the Wolverine, and people call him the Milverine, but he's not a real life superhero.
He's just a guy with a hairy chest.
Right. He's just a local character.
All right. Sorry, I just snorted at you. Sorry. Okay. So why don't we get this let's get this trivia started.
Okay, great. Oh, hang on here. Sorry.
Oh yeah, we left your trivia.
Are you still there?
There we go.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, let's start with question number 1, right? I'll read the question twice so people can think about it. And while I'm saying the question the second time, people should be typing their answers in. And then while we're waiting for the leg, I'm going to talk about some of these prizes. And then we'll say the answer.
Before you do all of this, I should just say, person that wins. In order for you to get your stuff, we will give you T's email to send your info to when we announce the winner. Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. Go ahead.
And I'll throw in some extra stickers and some other swag for each person too. Okay. There's 10 questions. So we're going to start question number 1. What deity does Alex Jones claim the Great Owl of Bohemia statue in the Bohemian Grove represents? So that question again, what deity does Alex Jones claim the Great Owl of Bohemia statue in the Bohemian Grove represents? So while we're waiting for answers on that, and maybe you can tell me when you see the answers come in, we talked a little bit about this, but this is a comic zine that Richard drew in 2012. So after his protest, he drew this sort of fictional account of him and a couple of other real life superheroes raiding the Bohemian Club and defeating reptilian aliens inside of the Bohemian Club is what this comic is about. It's a very rare item. I would guess he probably made less than 50 copies of this. He gave me a couple of them, and then he sort of left some free copies in different comic book stores and stuff like that. So, do you see people answering?
Yes.
Yes, we have 2.
Okay, so we have 2 people. The first guess by Eric Gunther. Moloch?
Yes.
Yes, that's
right.
the answer?
Yes,
Woohoo!
Moloch.
All right. So I know, so before we move on to the next question then, I know, it just occurred to me, I don't know how comfortable you are putting your email out on YouTube. Are you okay with doing that? Or
Yeah,
should I
totally
tell
cool.
Eric to email us? Okay, so
No.
why don't you go ahead and say your email
Yeah.
for...
Yeah, my email is just my name, lowercase, TEAKRULOS @gmail.com.
Okay.
Okay.
So person who won, was it Eric? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Eric, you'll want to contact T.
Well, he didn't.
this.
So we're going to add everyone's correct answers up. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
got it. All right.
So
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
So whoever answered Moloch got a point for that.
Got it. Oh, okay. All right. So Eric got 1 point.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Okay. Question number 2. Besides the Twin Towers, 9/11 truthers point at the destruction of this building as a supposedly controlled demolition. So besides the Twin Towers, which of course we know are destroyed, 9/11 truthers point at the destruction of this building as proof of a supposed controlled demolition. So while we're waiting for those answers, I love this bumper sticker so much. My friend Alex Grow designed this, and it says, "What would DB Cooper do?" I guess it's not so much a conspiracy as it is a weird mystery, but if you're unfamiliar with the story, DB Cooper hijacked an airplane, demanded 2 duffel bags full of money and a parachute, and while they were flying over Washington State or Oregon, he parachuted out of the airplane with the money and disappeared into the night. and nobody knows who he was. So I love this sticker, and this will be one of the prizes. Do we have answers there?
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the first one, is this the same Eric that
Eric
I'm about
Gunther,
to?
yes.
Yes, Eric Gunther says Pentagon.
That is not correct. It's actually 7 World Trade Center.
Oh, well, actually, okay, we had one more guess. Rundown Live says building number 7. Is that what you were going to say?
That's right. That's building 7.
All right.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Very good.
Rundown Live, 1 point.
Cool. Question number 3. The CIA made 638 attempts to kill what world leader? The CIA made 638 attempts to kill what world leader? This is not a conspiracy theory, by the way. This has been proven. So, but it shows you that some conspiracy theories, and reality kind of blend together sometimes. So, here's another prize. Okay. We were talking about flat hop, but there's also in the flat earth world a legendary singer known as the Flat Earth Man. He's a British dude that sings honky tonk songs about how NASA is lying and how, the moon landing was a hoax and stuff like this. I bought this at the Flat Earth Conference, and check this out. I didn't even know this when I bought it. It's it's signed by the Flat Earth Man, who says, "Stay flat, y'all."
Right off the CD burner to you.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Oh, we had a couple guesses for this one. All right. So our friend Eric guesses Bin Laden.
No, it was actually Fidel Castro.
Yes. And our other guess was Gibson Caldwell, who guessed Castro.
Good job, Gibson.
All right, so Gibson Caldwell, you get a point.
Yeah, and it was ridiculous. Some of their plots included like giving him an exploding cigar, or like trying to poison his shampoo, and all sorts of like stuff that seems like it was out of a wacky spy movie. Okay, question 4. Bob Lazar claims he worked in Area 51 where he saw extraterrestrial cadavers. He says the aliens are from which star system? Bob Lazar claims he worked in Area 51 where he saw extraterrestrial cadavers. He says the aliens are from which star system? And this is actually a star system you'll see in a lot of abduction stories and stuff like that. So it's pretty common amongst UFO extraterrestrial stuff. So I just wait for answers on that one.
Yeah. Still waiting. Oh, I'm shocked that people aren't guessing on this one.
Still waiting on star systems.
Still waiting on star systems. Well, there's a delay in light years.
Yes. Yeah, so while I was working on American Madness, by the way, and when I visited Richard in Pahrump, we drove out to Area 51. I mean, we didn't try to go inside or anything like that, but he was shooting this video. And so we got some shots out there in the desert, and we drove by the fence and got to see where Area 51 is. So
did you sense that there was anything interesting about it?
No, there's nothing interesting to see because it's pretty much just a barbed wire fence and then a lot of desert, and like you can't really see very far in because there's like these desert hills, So who knows what's out there?
Got 2 star system guesses.
All right, we've got 2 star system guesses. All right, good. So Nick Regola says Alpha Centauri.
No.
No. All right, and then the other guess was Rundown
Live.
I can't read Joe's handwriting. Zeta Reticuli.
They got it. Zeta Reticuli.
All right.
That's where Lazar claims that these aliens that we've been communicating with are from. Cool. Here's a flat Earth question.
Okay.
Rapper B.O.B. had a rap beef with which famous scientist over his belief the Earth is flat? Rapper B.O.B. had a rap beef with which famous scientist over his belief the Earth is flat? And this scientist actually was on a comedy show, and he did a rap, and then he literally dropped the mic to say, "That's how gravity works." It's true.
Oh man, that's good though. That's a good line.
Yeah, B.O.B. is probably the most famous rap. I wouldn't say he's a flat Earth exclusive rapper, but he's written a couple of songs where he talks about flat Earth and stuff like that. So
he's flat Earth sympathetic.
Yes, right, exactly, exactly.
All right, we got any guesses? We got one guess. Our friend Eric says Neil deGrasse Tyson.
He got it. That's right.
Nice.
Neil deGrasse Tyson was on what was his name? The Larry Wilmore show, and that's where he did his mic drop. Okay.
What was Neil deGrasse Tyson's reaction?
Neil deGrasse Tyson, he did the mic drop because he was demonstrating how gravity worked.
I totally misunderstood. I thought the rapper B.O.B. But you're saying Neil deGrasse Tyson's response. What? Oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, it was really funny. He did like a little rap about science, and B.O.B. was mad at him because he thought that he had dissed him. So it was one of the strangest rap beefs of all time. Okay. Question 6. Skull and Bones is a Yale secret society. In one election, both presidential candidates were members or former members of Skull and Bones. Which two? Skull and Bones is a Yale secret society. In one election, both presidential candidates were former members of Skull and Bones. Which two were they? Need both names.
Not the year. You want the candidates, not the year.
The candidates, yeah.
Okay.
And so this, Liz, I have a feeling this is going to blow your mind too. So I went to the JFK assassination conference, and one of the things that I saw was a selection from a musical, and this musical is called Me and Lee. And it is a musical about how Lee Harvey Oswald is innocent and was framed. So the actors in this production sang a song from the musical, and then they showed the rest of, they showed the DVD for the conference. And it was something else. I had to buy a copy of the DVD. So this is going to go to a new home. I'm sad to part with it, but...
I hope you watched it. You've seen everything on DVD. Okay, all right, good. All right, Skull and Bones. Tim. Okay, we have a couple answers. So if the first one isn't it, then we'll go to the next one. Tim Demeter says Gore Bush.
No.
Nope. All right. Eric Gunther says Bush Kerry.
That is correct.
All right. Point for Eric Gunther. Eric's killing it tonight.
Yes. John Kerry was Skull and Bones 1966, and George W. Bush was Skull and Bones 1968. So we would have gotten the Skull and Bones either way. Okay, question number 7. QAnon claims that a satanic pedophile ring of Democrats gets high off of what chemical, the compound that is supposedly harvested from their victims? So this is a chemical that they extract. QAnon claims that a satanic pedophile ring of Democrats gets high off of what chemical compound that is supposedly harvested from their victims. So,
I have the smart-ass answer, and then there's probably the real answer, but we'll see.
Oh yeah, you have the smart-ass answer? Did you say?
I will, but I do, but I don't want to.
Well, I want to hear your,
yeah.
I want to hear your answer first.
Well, no, I don't, because I don't want to I don't want to ruin it for other people's guesses. Also, I'm making it sound like I really should not be building up the tension because it's not that funny. It's just dumb. But,
Okay. Okay.
I see Joe's writing something down, so it's gonna come through
Oh.
the pneumatic tube over to me when he's done
Okay.
writing it.
Cool. This is a fun one.
All right. Yep. All right. Nicholas says, I can't read.
Adrenochrome.
Oh, adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome, yes.
Oh, adrenochrome.
Yes, yes.
But
Yes.
the rundown 5 says adrenochrome. Do we want to say Nicholas came in first with adrenochrome? Do we want to go with? Are we counting spelling or?
No, let's not count spelling.
Okay.
Okay, so then it was be Nicholas.
Nicholas gets it.
Okay. I was just going to say pizza fumes, but but
pizza fumes. Yeah.
but that's not.
No,
I told you it wasn't that fun.
As part of the claim is that they extract this somehow from people's adrenal glands, and then they get high off of it. I've got a really funny T-shirt that I bought online that says, "Don't talk to me until I've had my adrenochrome." Kind of a weird joke about this theory. So, okay, let's go to question number 8. This is a question you're probably only going to know if you read my book, so we'll see. Question 8 is, which musician wrote a song about Richard McCaslin, aka the Phantom Patriot, in a song that is titled Phantom Patriot? So also a good time to talk about the big prize of the evening. This is, Richard always kind of viewed himself as an action figure, sort of. So I think it's really cool that we were able to, a company called Hero Gear Design did a 3D print of this figure. And then this is hand painted. And my friend David Beyer created this backer card, is what it's known as. So it's a little Phantom Patriot action figure. And there's only 4 of these that have been made. So this is a very rare item.
It's kind of awesome that you're giving that away during our event. So thank you for that.
Yes. Yeah, no, I thought it would be a great trivia prize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to make this joke all night. And that is that I feel like because your name is T, it's hilarious that you're spilling the tea with us, which is a dumb joke that no one thinks is funny except for me.
I like it. I think it's funny.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
All
right. We have one guess from our friend Eric, Les Claypool.
That's right.
Yes, I presume.
Yep. Yes. Les Claypool wrote a song called The Phantom Patriot. It was on one of his solo albums in 2006. I actually got to talk to Les Claypool for a few minutes on the phone while I was working on the book, so I could get a couple of quotes from him into the book, which was fun. I love listening to Primus and stuff when I was a teenager, so it was cool to be able to talk to him. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. Question number 9. This CIA program ran from 1953 to 1973, with the major focus being experiments to create mind control. What was the name of the program? This is an actual thing, not a conspiracy. We know this is true now because a lot of papers related to it were eventually released. But this CIA program ran from 1953 to 1973, with the major focus being experiments to create mind control. What's the name of the program? In a very scary chapter, I mean, where this program used like hallucinogenic drugs and torture and all sorts of crazy stuff, because the CIA wanted to get like a Manchurian candidate style of person who could be mind controlled and, assassinate Fidel Castro is something they seem to really want to do badly, or other, Russian agents and stuff like that. So it's a true conspiracy.
Mhm.
unlike the adrenochrome.
Yeah, well, this one is the one that, like, when people are like, do you guys carry like Outer Limits books at the store? I always think of this program. I'm always like, oh, the books about that are over here. All right.
Yeah.
We got 2 answers.
One retracted.
One retracted.
Yep.
All right. So 1 answer from our friend Eric, MK Ultra.
That's right. The Project MK Ultra. It also had some other code names, but that was the main umbrella term for all of them. So good job. Eric's really killing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last question. We talked about this earlier, but I don't think that I said the name. So question number 10, what's the name of the pizzeria Edgar Madison Welch raided in 2016 because he believed in a theory called Pizzagate? So we're looking for the name of the restaurant. What's the name of the pizzeria Edgar Madison Welch raided in 2016 because he believed in a theory called Pizzagate? It actually looks like a cool place. I'm hoping, when things are moving again, that I can visit Washington, D.C. I've actually wanted to visit D.C. for a while, and definitely will stop in this place to get a slice of pizza. And there's another cool bookstore in that area called Politics and Prose, which is right down the street from this place. So that's on my post-pandemic wish list, is a trip to Washington, D.C.
And the bigger trivia question for that one is the pizza there good?
Yeah. Well, I would like to find out,
Yeah, you'll have to report back.
Okay,
Yes.
All right. The rundown asks, Comet Ping Pong?
Comet Ping Pong. That's correct.
How is there not a band named that? Or maybe there is. I bet if we search the internet, I'm sure there's a band that's named itself that.
And the name is because they have all these ping pong tables in there. So they kind of move those out of the way and set up tables, and then later in the evening they'll bring the ping pong tables out. So but
Nice.
no secret basement where children are being kept in chains.
If I recall, I thought I heard they don't have a basement there, right? Wasn't that a thing?
That's the Alamo.
And that's the Alamo. Joe just said that.
It's like the Alamo, and that it also does not have a basement.
Joe's tabulating the results right now.
Okay, great.
Right?
Great,
So,
cool.
right. So are we doing this correctly? We're supposed to tell you the one name of the person that got the most, right? That's what's happening?
No, let's do 5 people.
Okay, so 5 people. Okay.
Yeah.
In
first place,
order.
this will be first place.
Okay.
The Stevie D will be second. The Zine will be third. The
Okay.
Earthman fourth, and the bumper stickers fifth.
Okay. Oh my God, I didn't write this down at all.
And if we need a tiebreaker,
Sure.
I got a good one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Joe, I feel bad for Joe. He's really put on the spot right now, tabulating.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So I should mention, and I didn't say this before, so this is a good time to say this actually. And that is, we do have copies of T's book here, and if you order it in the store or online, so our website is quimbys.com. You can go to our web store, or you can come into the store, 1854 West North Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60622. If you buy the book while supplies last, you get 2 things with it. One is a signed book plate by T, and then the other, while supplies last, is this replica of one of Richard's comics.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So, Joe's still tabulating. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Tension is mounting. So you have a question in case we need to do a tiebreaker. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
In
Yes.
fact, I think
Well,
there is a tie,
we-
actually. I'm looking at it.
No, there's a tie for third.
There's a tie for third. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
because there were 4.
Which one am I looking at here?
These.
These, not that. Yes. Okay. All right. first place with 5 points, or should I do it the other way around where I start with like or do we need to do a top? Well, we don't have 5 winners. So maybe we have 4 winners, but the bottom 2 winners had the same amount of points.
Okay.
Should I just say it?
No, let's do the tiebreaker.
I'll say it. Okay, tiebreaker. Okay.
For the last place.
So should I tell you who those people are, and then the 2 of them can face off? Okay.
Yes.
So with 1 point each, Nicholas and Gibson.
Okay, Nicholas and Gibson. I'm going to say this question, and you need to make your best guess, and the person that is the closest will win the tiebreaker. Okay. Here's the question. Okay. According to Google Maps, if Liz drove from Quimby's straight to the Bohemian Club in San Francisco, how long would it take to get there if she drove straight through without stopping in hours?
While wearing a diaper so that I don't need to go to the bathroom.
Right. The question again, according to Google Maps, if Liz drove from Quimby straight to the Bohemian Club in San Francisco, how long would it take to get there in hours if she drove straight through without stopping? The person that will get the closest to the actual number will win. So, but you got to answer now. Don't try to Google it. That's not fair.
Yeah, I've been curious to know how many people who have 1 point have Googled it really quickly. And Command T, type it in, get it, I see Joe's writing something down.
Is this just between Nicholas?
It should be just between Nicholas and Gibson.
Yeah.
Okay.
So other people who are weighing in.
They can, but it doesn't count.
All right. So Gibson said 18 hours and Nicholas said 56 hours.
Oh, man. Well, you're going to have to help me with the math because I'm bad at math. The answer is 31 hours.
Okay. So if we're doing it Price is Right style, you can't go over, you'd be eliminated. But if we do it math style, it was 36 hours?
31.
31 hours. 31. Yeah. So someone said 18. Whoever said 18, the difference is 13. And then someone else said 56, right? And wait, shoot, what did you say it was?
31.
Oh, 31.
Point goes to Gibson.
So the point goes to Gibson.
Okay, good job, Gibson.
All right.
Yeah. It would take 31 hours, 2,127 miles.
Nice. That's a lot of Slurpees, which I am overjoyed about because I love Slurpees. Okay. All right. So in 4th place, we have Nicholas Regala. So what does Nicholas get?
We're going to give him the bumper sticker and the Flat Earth Man CD. Okay.
And Gibson with 2 points in 3rd place.
He gets this very rare comic zine created by Richard McCaslin.
All right. And in 2nd place with 3 points, Rundown Live.
We get this Me and Lee musical DVD.
All right. And then in 1st place with 5 points, Eric Gunther.
He gets this very unique Phantom Patriot action figure.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, all right. So these people should email you, right?
Yes. Email me.
Email again? I'm sorry.
Can I put it up in the chat?
Oh, Joe's going to put it in the chat. Why didn't I think of that? Thanks, Joe. Yeah, that's really great.
I think probably a couple of those people know how to contact me, but T Krulos, TEAKRULOS @gmail.com.
Awesome. All right. I have somehow on my computer, while I'm playing around, lost my screen that I have of you. Where'd it go? Here it is. There it is. Okay.
A question from Winner Eric.
Oh, Winner Eric has a question.
Yes.
Can you tell us about Cheryl Wright?
Oh, Shelley Wright. Okay, sure. So this is something that you'll read a lot more in depth in the book. But at one point, Richard was kind of going through a tough time, and I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. He developed an infatuation with a country singer named Shelley Wright. And he'd actually gotten a big inheritance. So he went to a charity event and spent a lot of money bidding on having a dinner date with this country music star. And he was sort of hoping that she would fall in love with him. And she didn't. And he was really sort of heartbroken about that. And it ended up being, kind of a big part of the
Okay,
story.
we just lost your video.
Oh, dear.
Did your phone, your phone fall?
Am I there now?
Yeah,
There we go.
we're good, we're good.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, and so he, it was this kind of added to this like really down time that he had, but I think it ends up being kind of an important part of the story. So you'll be able to read all about it in a chapter of American Madness called "Burn the Owl."
Excellent. Okay. Well, do we have any? Do you have any closing thoughts? Because this has been really interesting and hilarious and fun.
Yes, it's fun. It's really fun seeing you, and I'm so glad to be with Quimby's for this. It's really cool. Yeah, definitely buy my book and buy it through Quimby's, because you'll get this cool extra stuff and you'll be supporting them, which is really important. If you're curious about more about me, I have a website, tkrulos.com. I have more information about all the books I've written. I also write a weekly column on my website called T's Weird Week.
It's not called Spill the Tea.
Spill the Tea is a good one. Maybe I'll change it. T's Weird Week, where I write about whatever random thing I think of that particular week. And I have information about other upcoming appearances and stuff like that.
Excellent. And I understand that some people are going to be watching this after it airs. And I understand, obviously, today is the 20th of October, 2020. But if by chance people are watching it as we are live streaming it now, what is like your next appearance or thing that you're doing that you want to plug?
I'm trying to think. I'm actually on Friday. There's a small town here in Wisconsin called New London, and they're having me do an online event on Friday where I'm going to talk about urban legends, actually. So some Wisconsin urban legends. So if you're interested in that, I'll be telling you about some, creepy legends from throughout Wisconsin.
And that's a virtual event?
Yes. And you can find a link if you go to tkrulos.com and go to the upcoming appearances section. There's a link to that. And that's where, I post any sort of event I'm doing.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, T. This has been such fun. And thank you to everybody who was watching and playing along with us. Eric, Nicholas, Rundown. It was great to hang out with you folks. And we look forward to seeing all of you again soon. Hopefully we'll see you in person when this crazy pandemic time ends, if it ever ends. But in the meantime, everybody take care and stay safe. All right. Have a good night.